So my focus now in teaching a class is how can I create a curriculum for my students to empower them with foundational knowledge, but also allow them to have fun through like freestyle or through learning music, through learning like rhythm, through learning choreography.
Welcome back to the Kurative Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Sutardji, and my guest today is Dani Galvez. Dani is a dancer, choreographer, yoga instructor, and founder of Archive Dance Collective, a team of dancers from all over the Bay Area with the same mission of self-discovery through dance education. In this episode, we talk about building a strong foundation for anything that you do, how she's incorporating yoga in dance and the rest of her life, and how rest is important to sustain your passion. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone. Before we get to the episode, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who is watching the podcast on YouTube and listening to the episodes on all the podcast apps. There are many other ways to support the podcast. A few are to rate and write a review on iTunes. If you got value from the episode, you can share it with a friend, and you can email me at hello@kevinsutardji.com and tell me your story about which episode resonated with you. Also, when I announce my guest for the episode on Instagram and ask for questions, you can DM me your question for my guest. Lastly, you can subscribe and be part of the notification squad by opting in on getting notified on YouTube or any podcast app whenever a new episode is released. Thank you and enjoy the show. All right, Dani Galvez, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
For the audience that don't know, why don't you talk about yourself and kind of tell us what you do?
So my name is Dani for short, Galvez, and I am based out of the Bay Area. Grew up in Union City. I am a dancer, an artist, performer, choreographer, and director. And so I'm just all over the Bay Area teaching yoga, teaching dance, performing all over the Bay Area. You can find me in libraries, I don't know, taking different yoga classes, teach meditation as well in corporate offices in San Francisco. So I've just been, the 20s have been pretty explorative in terms of career. I started off as a dancer, but now I'm getting into more like yoga and meditation spaces and very interested in how like these two worlds kind of integrate.
So how did you get into all of that from dance to yoga to meditation?
Well, dance started in middle school. From a very young age, actually. I have been dancing since I can remember. Me and my sister used to dance to my old Shania Twain, well, not my Shania Twain tapes, but my mom's Shania Twain tapes. And we used to make dances, have fun in the living room, and watching TV. Like MTV was a big thing in our household, watching music videos and copying the dances, and I was a really big Britney Spears fan.
Oh yeah, and just seeing her like perform like in dance in the music videos and all of that is like very inspiring, right?
Exactly. I was just copying her moves and learning, teaching myself how to dance in that way. But it wasn't until middle school where I joined a color guard team. And for those of people who do not know what color guard is, it's like with the flags and you perform indoors or sometimes outdoors. It's like with flags and sabers and rifles and you're dancing. And so I learned how to dance through color guard. And I did color guard all throughout middle school and high school, learning modern technique. So it wasn't really like hip hop or urban styles yet. It wasn't until in high school, I think junior and senior year, I joined. So the high school that I went to had a dance class. So you either did beginning dance, intermediate dance, or advanced dance. And so since I was in color guard, we kind of got the pass to take the advanced class. And all my friends from color guard were in advanced dance. So I was like, oh, I want to do it too. So I joined that junior year, and I really fell in love with like contemporary and lyrical and stuff like that, even hip hop and urban styles too. And I wanted to pursue it more after high school. And yeah, I was just on a path of like learning and seeing where my curiosity kind of led me.
What got you into wanting to actually pursue dance further outside of color guard and the classes?
What inspired me to pursue dance? Okay, well, after high school, I didn't dance for like one semester, right? I was in college, freshman year of college, fall semester. I didn't dance, and I could feel my body like screaming at me, like, you need to like, I had all this pent up angst or whatever. After high school, you're kind of just like, what do I do? Like, you're out in the world now and you're in college. And anywho, spring season of my freshman year in college, I joined a contemporary group. So one of my friends, she went to Ohlone College here in Fremont. There was a contemporary group on campus that was looking for dancers, and they were holding auditions. And I auditioned for them, and I got in for that season. Bliss Contemporary Company, they're still around, and they took me in. I learned a lot. Everyone was really sweet and passionate about their dancing, and that's where I kind of started choreographing too. So the director of Bliss Dance Company, Casey, she approached me and was like, do you want to choreograph for the show? And I said, choreograph? I don't know how to choreograph. I've choreographed in high school, but like she was asking me to choreograph a whole 25-minute section with no words. I said, no words? Like, I don't know about that. And then, weeks passed, and these assignments that she was giving me like piled up. And I'm such a nerd. Like, I get things done like right away as soon as I can. So that experience really pushed me into choreographing and challenging myself and being intentional with the things that I create in terms of dance. And so I think after that, I kept chasing that feeling, choreographing, creating something, putting it on stage, performing. I was really in it.
So it seems like you really got that choreography and teaching bug really quickly once you joined that team. What would you say got you to say, oh, maybe I am ready to teach? Because a lot of times people are trying to just learn, and they're maybe too afraid to create something and maybe teach it to, say, 25 people. How did you get into that? How did you get that mindset to finally say, oh, I'm ready to teach?
So shortly after I was on Bliss, I moved to San Jose I was doing my undergrad at San Jose State. And out there, I joined a team, VIP San Jose, and that was my first urban competitive team. And after maybe, 6 to 8 months being on the team, the director has given me a leadership role of co-captain. And I think even since high school, I was appointed captain of the Sabre line in color guard. And so being a leader or being some sort of like captain was always kind of innate, I would say. Just being kind of like that person responsible for X amount of people, or like cleaning a certain section, or knowing the counts and stuff like that. I was just really good at memorizing because I really liked it a lot, and I was just obsessed with getting things down. And being co-captain of VIP San Jose during that time, I was kind of put into a role of having to be personable with people and talk to people, and I wouldn't say necessarily evaluate, but work with them to see like how we can improve and work towards their goals. And I really liked that. I taught the team a couple of times, choreographed for them many times, and back then teams were like 20, 25. I think we had 25 people when I was on VIP. And yeah, I kind of just learned how to teach big groups of people after being in that space, being in VIP San Jose. Like, I've never taught whole big group like that before until VIP. So like Bliss only had maybe eight people, or like 10, 15, something like that, less than 20.
So it continued to grow in terms of size of the team that you're leading.
Exactly, basically. Yeah.
That's cool. Would you say that if you look back maybe to when you were even younger than high school or middle school, did you see yourself doing things that required you to be a leader or a captain or anything like that?
Heck no. My growing up in like a Filipino household and going to like Filipino parties, you know, karaoke is always there, and I've been singing since a young age, right? And I really resented it like at a young age, because my dad would be like, hey, why don't you go sing for them? Like, go get the mic, go pick a song. They'd give me the little book, like, pick your song that you want to sing. And I'm like, I don't want to sing. You're just, I don't know. I resented it because my parents were like trying to push me to sing, and I just wanted to hide from everyone. Even, yeah, like growing up, it's like you have to say hi to everyone in the family. Like,
I have to do that too, all the time. The
parents pressure you to say hi, and being like a preteen or whatnot, you kind of like resent that too, and you're like, I don't want to say hi.
I remember even my parents, every time we would leave a party, my parents would say, oh, okay, make sure you say bye to every single person, and if I don't say bye, they're like getting mad at me or something.
You're like, ugh, why? But yeah, just having that experience, it's like I would have never thought that I would be directing or leading or being in charge or teaching in front of a group of people.
So how did you get from being that shy, maybe even introverted person to being more out there and teaching and basically like being a captain and leading? Did you kind of learn on the job, or were you, I don't know, just learning from people, anything like that?
I would say it's a mixture of both. You definitely learn on the job, and I definitely asked my questions to my mentors and stuff like that. Since I was performing, since I was like a young person, right, I was always in front of an audience, always in front of a crowd, not necessarily speaking, but just dancing, right, doing color guard. And these audience members, like, they're like, it could be 50 people to like hundreds of people, like 500 people or thousands. One of the first performance memories that I'll never forget, in high school, we went to Dayton, Ohio for color guard championship. And the stadium is like super, super huge stadium. And like, it's just packed all around 360. And it's like kind of, you know, like NBA stadium. That size of a stadium. That size of a stadium, yeah. Almost like the Oakland Coliseum. And like, even performing for that is just you kind of like I kind of built the, I don't know, the skill to like be in front of that many people, but still hold my own and be confident. Like it took time though.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially forced to perform and just get over that fear, because this is probably a time where it's like, well, I can't not perform, right? So probably doing that kind of helps you become more confident, essentially.
They call it throwing you in the fire.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how you learn. You get thrown in the fire or you get thrown in the ocean and you just learn how to swim.
Yeah, I think that's actually sometimes the best way to do it, because there's so many reasons for you to say, oh, maybe not this time, or making up an excuse. And if someone forces you to do that, you're just like, okay, I'll do it, and most likely you'll learn something from it or gain more experience, and those are all typically good experiences.
Yeah. I believe in that too, just getting thrown in the fire and being forced to learn, being forced to do it. That way you don't have any excuses. You can't come up with anything then. And then in my early years on VIP, like teaching, I don't remember the first time that I taught the team, but I remember like not wanting to do it. I remember like not having that skill, not having the confidence to be in front of a group of people and tell them, hey, this is what I have. And even just like telling people what to do, or like it wasn't in me back then, but it was definitely a muscle that I developed.
So what finally pushed you to do that? Was it just to get things done, or like what forced you to actually make those decision making?
Well, when I was on the team, Krishan, the founder of VIP, he approached me and he said, hey, there's some dance studios that are looking for teachers. Are you interested in teaching? And I'm like, okay. I was just like, at that point in my dancing, I was kind of like, whatever opportunities that I got, I saw it as like an opportunity to grow. I saw it as an opportunity to develop my skills in whatever. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then from there, having a weekly slot at a studio, that one forced me to reflect and assess and evaluate and develop my teaching.
So how do you come up with choreography to teach to your students? What is your process?
It's very hard, and it changed over time, right? So when I first started teaching a weekly slot, it was purely just like out of the music that I was feeling at the moment. And so I would be creating a combo maybe like that the morning of my class, right? And it was fun. It was fun, like creating combos here and there. But weekly, like week after week after week, I started to get burnt out. I started to not have any more ideas. I started to lose like passion. So it's definitely difficult early on. So now when I teach class, I teach more of like a foundational class. I find that when I teach like a technique, whether that's like contemporary, working on your pliés, relevés, or if it's some kind of like hip hop, urban style. Urban style is kind of tricky. I haven't found a technique for that yet because it's like such a melting pot of styles. But like, if you're teaching a hip hop class, like you're doing the rock or you're doing the bounce or the two-step. So like finding those kinds of techniques now, very important when I teach a class.
Yeah, I feel like those foundational skills are very important for any dancer to get started, to essentially learn from choreographers who are teaching choreography and actually understanding how to do those moves. I mean, I don't even know if you know this, but I started dancing when I went to college. I got into that scene when Jabberwockies came and for America's Best Dance Crew, and I got so into it. That was my senior year in high school, and once I learned about that, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I joined the Filipino club. The Filipino club at the time was one of the only club that had a dance team. So I learned from that, but I was just learning choreo. Like I didn't learn any foundation. I didn't learn how to do like even a body roll at the time. And I did feel that there was something missing. I did feel that, maybe I'm not doing this move right, or it doesn't even feel right. Like what's going on? So, we didn't have a huge dance scene in San Luis Obispo, but once I started taking, I guess, classes or workshops from like, the company or AOV back when it was in Redwood City, I started learning foundations, and it really changed the game. Like I think those classes are super important, and I'm glad you're really interested in that.
Yeah, foundation is everything. It's what will hold you in any class, right? You learn a foundation, and when you go into a choreography class, you are essentially kind of like comparing and contrasting that foundation. So foundation will inform your movement. But to tap into like my choreographing process, like for a class, right now, if I were to teach a class, I would teach like my choreographing process is now slow. I wait until I find like a really good song that like, usually I freestyle, right? I'm at the gym and I'm freestyling, and when I like hear a song that like I will know if I want to choreograph to it, because I'm just like, this feels so good. I feel like this is a message that I need to like put out. But going back to like when I first started, when I would choreograph week after week, I feel like those days are kind of, I don't really do that anymore. What I do now is like I go back to old pieces that I made that I know like the back of my hand, and I teach from that place.
So when it comes to, teaching as a profession, you're doing classes week by week, and essentially you did that because you had a passion for dance, you had a passion for teaching. How was it changing from like a passion hobby to something that you were forced to have a choreo every week? And did you feel like you started to lose that passion to the point where you might have stopped, or how did you feel basically?
Well, I have my toes in a bunch of different styles, and a bunch of different spaces when it comes to dance. So actually in my undergrad, I studied dance. So the whole concert scene, modern contemporary scene, I have my toes in there. So I wouldn't say I ever lost my passion for dance. In terms of teaching a weekly class, I've not lost a passion, but lost focus. So my focus now in teaching a class is how can I create a curriculum for my students to empower them with foundational knowledge, but also allow them to have fun through like freestyle or through learning music, through learning like rhythm, through learning choreography.
And would that make you more excited about teaching again, or even just going through the whole process of thinking of different things to teach to the students?
Mm-hmm. I think it's more exciting thinking of it that way, like building a curriculum for the students versus making a piece for the students, because it's then you're looking at like what you're looking at the student, right? You're looking at what they might need to improve. Is it their footwork? Is it their hip switches? Is it their sense of rhythm? Like, what is it? And then developing curriculum based off of that.
So it seems very customized for the student, which is very cool.
Yeah, totally customized for the student, especially like if they're there to kind of develop themselves as a dancer. Some students they take class just to have fun and just to like move and take it as a hobby, but then there are other students who want to develop their style, develop their technique.
If someone were to take your class, and maybe they've never danced before, how would you start with getting them to, besides learning the foundations, like how would you create that curriculum? What would you do?
What kind of class?
Maybe like a hip hop class,
Okay.
or even contemporary, whatever.
If it was a hip hop class, I would start with breaking down rhythm. I would start with the rock. So like having them like rock their head or rock their chest, and then I'll get them into their knees, like find the bounce. So that in conjunction with the music, the rock and the bounce is already like teaching them rhythm. So if they have that constant pulse, I'll say, okay, that's what's going to drive you all throughout your hip hop. And then I'll give them the 2 steps. So getting into their feet. And then maybe we'll get into some like grooves like the Bart Simpson or like the Alf, like all of the old school hip hop moves, right? Just getting them familiar with vocabulary. And having it be fun. Like teaching hip hop is cool because like it's very like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very like steady and groovy. If it were a contemporary class, again, I would break it down to the very elemental foundation to it. So like we'll work on the positions of the feet, first position, second position, pliés, releves, lunges, and moving across the floor. Very, very systematic approach. But I'll also give them some kind of choreography to work with too. You want to have a combination that they're working towards in conjunction with their foundation, so they can apply.
That's very cool. I feel like you're building blocks for essentially maybe a choreo piece or something like that, where you're teaching them different components. And for your students, are they different ages? Do they range?
So I've had experience teaching at a studio and teaching kids. So the youngest kid I've taught is 6 years old.
That's very young.
They're so cute. And theirs like is simple, very simple rhythmic bounce and things like that. The oldest student that I've taught, man, she must be pushing 60.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still moving, still dancing?
Yeah, still moving, still dancing. And she has, I teach different range. So from kids to high schoolers. I work with high schoolers a lot. College students and post-grad. Not a whole lot of like over 40, but I do get like the occasional.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so how many people do you teach, or how many classes do you teach, as well as are you part of a dance team right now?
Okay, so for classes for dance, as of right now, 2019, I'm not teaching any weekly dance classes, but I do teach weekly yoga classes. But as far as dancing on a team, I perform with a lot of groups. So like I said, I have my foot in a lot of doors, right? Concert dance. So I'm dancing with Patel Dance Works, who puts on contemporary dances. I'm dancing with Cypher Dance Company, who also puts out contemporary dances. Barone and Co. Contemporary Dance. Archive Dance Collective. So I started Archive in 2017. So I've been working very closely with Archive. And oh my gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, because I would feel like a total asshole.
It's okay. Well, I'll add it in the description if you forget anyone else. But for Archive, I guess you started in 2017, you said. Why did you start Archive, and what was the goal for it?
So I started Archive when I was teaching a weekly slot at Viva Gala Studios, which is not around anymore, but it was a local dance studio in Union City. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. A dance studio in my hometown. I'm going to totally teach there. So started teaching there, and I had a handful of regular students. And after like summertime, it kind of like got slow. And I wanted to do something for my students like, hey, you guys are like pretty awesome people. Like, let's perform somewhere. Let's get a gig going or something like that. So it was just more like for fun at first, from people that took my class. And I was like, okay, let's see what's around here in Union City. Let's start local. And I ended up contacting like the people who were in charge of the Art and Wine Festival in Union City, Mighty 4-Day in Union City. So like those events we had performed at, and it was really fun. It was chill. It wasn't like competitive or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was just a different kind of vibe, and I really liked it.
So what does it take to start this collective, basically?
So basically just space, right? So after Viva Gala had kind of like closed their doors, I had to find another studio to base practice out of, since we couldn't use that space anymore. And so we were training with a friend of ours, training in house and training in like freestyle theory, freestyle technique. That's kind of an oxymoron, but we were just labbing, right? And it was close by to my house in Hayward, and very local. So that kind of gave me the idea like, oh, maybe I could just book this place too. And something came over me last summer, 2018. Yeah. So 2017 for Archive was kind of like slow year. We started some things in the summer, and then everyone went back to school, and then we kind of just let that simmer. And then summer came around again, and then I hit up a bunch of my friends, from different spaces, from San Jose, from when we performed in Santa Cruz, like all of these different labs that I was a part of, and even from my undergrad at school, all of these different places, and centralize everyone in one space. And I thought it was really cool to see everyone meet each other, because in my mind I'm like, everyone knows each other already, but there was so there needed to be some community building, the early stages of Archive. So we had to, I'm very much about like dialogue and getting to know people, and creating that foundation again, right? That foundation of like, I respect what you say, and I will listen to what you say. This is a safe space for us to create. This is a safe space for us to experiment. So starting off Archive was kind of in that space, and allowing other people to choreograph and to collaborate, and to and for my responsibility is kind of just put everything together and put it on stage.
So how do you so you were saying you were getting a lot of people from different areas, different groups, and could potentially be that they all have different characters, different vibes, different maybe even values. How do you mesh all of them together so that they're essentially working well together and not imploding from the inside?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, everyone's going to have their preference. So the very first set that Archive put together and premiered on like community level stage, because we did like small festivals, like church gigs and stuff like that with only like 5 people, right? But this first group that we had was like, I think there's 22 of us, and we showcased at Duncan's thing oh, not Duncan's thing, Full Potential's thing. Complex.
Okay.
Complex, yeah. And of course, we started off with dialogue, right? Just getting to know everyone and having that conversation. And I posed the question of like, what is authenticity to you? And everyone kind of just shared around in a circle what authenticity meant to them. And it was crazy because, I guess not that crazy, but it was all under the same sort of umbrella. Like everything that people said in terms of authenticity is like, it comes from the soul. It's like your essence and it's true to you. And that's the foundation that I wanted to start with, is however your authenticity is, just express that. And then we will respect that as long as you're coming from an authentic place.
Yeah, I think that goes back to your foundation. Like once you have a strong foundation, you can grow from there. You can build, for you, a collective and a community. And I think that's a great way to always start something when you're working with multiple people, because whether you have the same foundation or maybe if you have the same goals or the same values, I think that will keep you in check, and that will keep you together, because everyone's going to go in different places. They'll have different goals, and maybe they'll think about themselves or not care about other people, and that's what you don't want that. So it's very cool that you guys start with the foundation, versus like grabbing people and say, oh, let's try to go towards this goal. I mean, I feel like multiple ways are different. There are different ways to really get that to work, like getting communities and collectives to work. But it's nice that you guys started that conversation. That probably is what you guys live by then, authenticity.
Yes. So the whole slogan of Archive is sort of self-discovery through dance education. So we're using our dance process, whether that be building a set or labbing or going out to events, as a way to discover ourselves, really discover and come back to authenticity.
So would you say that you're still as involved in your collective as you were from the very beginning?
Even more so now. So now I'm in a space, now that we've kind of like had our first year run of Archive, now I'm getting to build the system, right? I'm getting to build the foundation and the inner workings, and now assigning not tasks, but like, I guess tasks to people. Responsibilities is the word that I was looking for. And it's just organically coming together. I'm very much a person that doesn't like to force anything. I believe in the law of least effort.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like things will work out as they should, as they are meant to, I should say.
Okay, pretty optimistic then, you would say.
Mm-hmm. So with Archive, now that we have kind of like that system building, we're looking long term now and seeing what we want to do with that and what we want to bring to the community and how we can bring communities together. In my early dance career, right, performing and choreographing and things like that, I was just taking opportunities that were available to me, that were handed to me, which I'm very, very grateful for. And with these opportunities, I learned a lot of like what I liked and what I didn't have a preference for and what I might have done differently. And lining up with a company's value now is more important to me than how much I am getting paid.
I think that's more sustainable, and it will keep you sane when you're working with other people. Because if you're working with people that are just hard to work with, or you don't believe in what they believe in, you're never gonna click. And I think that's something that most people have to learn after experiencing some bad experiences, So that's cool. I feel like there's a lot of things that you're focusing on, but I know that you also do yoga as well as, you're teaching yoga. How did you get into that, and how is that incorporated in your life right now?
All of my life is yoga. Okay. Yoga is full time.
Oh, wow. How so?
And I say that because there's many limbs of yoga, and when people think of yoga, many times they think of just the physical practice of it, and there's a whole bunch of like yoga jargon that I kind of just like picked up on. For example, like practice. They call yoga a practice because it's something that you continue to come back to and work out and develop. But the way I got started with yoga, I actually first used it to supplement my dancing. In my undergrad, we were on like some kind of break, winter break, I think. And I was not, I just didn't take dance class, right? So I instead took yoga because I thought, oh, maybe that'll just like strengthen my core and keep me flexible and keep me moving over the winter break. And the first couple of classes that I took, I really enjoyed them. The act of like meditating and working on breath and just the movements, the slow movements added such a contrast to like my life that is like so fast paced and like always moving and things like that. So being able to slow down really, really helped my sanity. Yeah.
And so with yoga, do you feel that you've changed in the way you express yourself with dance as well?
100%. There's a centering sort of factor that yoga brings me, and I'm trying to integrate it to my dance. But my dancing body is it's very habitual, right? So every time I hear music, my mind says, okay, let's do these moves. And my body goes, okay, I will do these moves. Of course, like that, right? Very fast. But with yoga, it's a sensing from within first and then moving from that place. So how you look is irrelevant to what you're doing. So in yoga, we say it's more about how you feel versus how you look. And I feel like with dancing, the way I have been practicing it in my early years, it's always been about how I look versus about how I feel. So now I'm trying to integrate the developing how I feel in dancing versus how I look. So freestyling has been a gateway for me to do that.
So it feels like, or it sounds like you're trying to be more intentional with your moves, and you're trying to get that balance between what you learn from dance and what you're learning from yoga. And that's very interesting. And I feel like, do you feel like your mind is racing every time you're freestyling? Because I know you're really into freestyling, and I've seen a lot of your videos. You're really good.
Depends where I am. So if I'm in a battle, my mind is racing and I'm like, I have to show these judges what I have in the first 10 seconds. Otherwise, I'm going to lose, which is not always the case. But it's like yoga has given me the skills to be aware of my kind of thinking in that situation. But if I'm like in the gym or like in my room, just having music on and dancing to something that I like to listen to, I will just go and my body really feels happy dancing like that.
That's cool. I feel like I've seen your freestyle videos and they're so cool. How did you get into freestyling? Because that's totally different from choreography. Because choreography, you take time to, try to come up with moves and make a sequence out of it. But with freestyle, maybe you have some in your arsenal, some moves in your arsenal, but I feel like you really had to think of your feet. Maybe the music is not something you're not really used to. How did you get started with that, and why do you do freestyle basically?
Yeah, I started freestyling in 2015. One of my favorite artists, her name is Janae Aiko. she made a hashtag. It was hashtag Stop Fuck Shit 2015. And it was basically a message to like stop sitting on your ass and do something with your talent.
Oh shit, that's cool. I like that a lot.
And so during 2015, I like used that hashtag and like I freestyled almost every day in my garage. So in my garage, I had like a sound system. I would put my phone just like up and then freestyle my movement and then record it, and started doing that like almost religiously.
And would you just learn from the videos after watching yourself and trying to improve? How did that help you with freestyling?
It made me, it built my confidence. Because at first, like watching the videos back, I'm like, that is very cringy at first. But after time, continuing to freestyle and watch my videos, I developed a relationship with the way I move, and I developed like a okayness to like just watch myself, because sometimes it could be very hard to watch yourself dance because you're very judgy of yourself, right?
Yeah.
You can be very judgy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that with myself with video too. Like sometimes when I do video, I'm typically behind the camera, but sometimes when I do videos, I have to talk to the camera, like in my Instagram videos or something like that, and they're cringeworthy for me too. I feel like we're our worst critics.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so after you do it a couple times, you start to get used to it, right?
Yeah.
And once you start, at least for me, I started releasing these videos. What I thought were super cringeworthy ended up being okay for most of my audience. So sometimes you just have to get over that fear and just be a little bit more confident.
Exactly.
And just be like, fuck it, one day it's going to come out and you're just going to have to deal with like not being okay with it. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it's actually not bad at all.
In yoga, we say, what do we say? Observe without judgment. So it's the idea of like you're observing everything in your sensibility, whether you're like looking at something, or you're listening to something, or you're thinking something. So you're observing and noticing these things that are coming up without judging them. And that's one way that I try to do it, is through freestyle, is observe the way I'm dancing without judging it, and so develop from there.
Have you learned anything else in yoga that you've applied to your life?
Breathing, taking my time. I think the biggest thing is just self-awareness and not judging myself for anything. That has been a game changer and unlocked so many things in my life, so many opportunities, so many areas of growth, whether that be in relationships or family. And I guess the concept of like letting things go and shedding layers, it comes back to that whole authenticity thing too. With authenticity, that at our core, we often have like our shadow, and we hide our shadow from other people by putting up an act. And so in yoga, we work to also like shed those layers of our acts and our shadows, which would be our fears of like, oh, this person thinks I'm this way, and I can't have them thinking I'm this way, so I'm going to put up an act, right? When all of those are just layers of like our authenticity, whatever that might be. So just, I guess, applying that in my life and observing that without judging as well, because it's okay to have acts and it's okay to have shadows, and it's okay to allow your authenticity to express itself.
That's one thing I'm actually trying to work on myself that I didn't know that yoga really teaches. I'm trying to be more truthful and like trying to really accept what I really feel about certain situations or how I act. And being true to myself is hard because you are trying to make people happy, or you're trying to do certain things that you might not be that you might not typically do. And I think, learning stuff like what you were just saying from yoga, and applying it to your life is something that a lot of people, I feel like, can benefit from.
And this is why I say yoga is full time.
Oh.
Because this is the practice as well, is practicing not judging ourselves for, we want to always be instantly gratified with achieving something. So if we have the task that is be true to yourself, and you're not there by tomorrow, you're like judging yourself like, why can't I be true to myself yet? But it takes time and self-compassion to yourself too, to be like, it's okay, we're getting there, and it takes time.
I love that. That's amazing. I think a lot of people will benefit from that advice. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have a few questions from Instagram. I put it on my story and said that, I'm interviewing you for,
really?
for the podcast.
Oh, shoot. Oh no.
A few people sent some questions. I think we can go with a couple.
Okay.
So I hope you don't mind.
Okay.
And some of these, I guess most of these people, Fan Bam, Brandon Fan.
Hey, shout out.
Yeah. He was the first one that sent a question. He says, what stage are you in your journey? I guess he means probably in terms of dance and yoga and whatever you're doing now.
Selflessness and being of service. So it's not about me anymore. It's about the collective. It's about the community, and how I can provide the community spaces or opportunities or platforms to either express themselves or to, grow themselves in some way, to explore themselves in some way. So my role now, I feel like, is aiding the community, members of the community, to develop themselves and, grow. So
that's very cool. Using what you learned to help others.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And that's why you probably love teaching. Like, it's a benefit, and you see the fruits of your labor. Really,
because it's like with teaching, you can never go wrong, because you're always going to have new students with new things to work on, and that will grow me as a teacher too, because now I have to develop new systems, new curriculum for them to grow in whatever goal that they're trying to achieve.
That's very cool. Cool. For the next question, from D Muggy, which is Danielle.
Hey, shout out.
So how do you stay disciplined to maintain your mental and physical strength from yoga?
Rest.
Okay.
Discipline.
How do you incorporate rest into your life, basically, and how do you tell yourself, okay, now it's time to rest, versus so many things are going on throughout your life? How do you know when to rest?
It's very hard for me to rest. I'm sure, as with like other people, it's very hard to like put your to-do list down in a way and not think about it. But actually, the beginning of this year, I was at the On One and Prince Ali through a jam in New Year's Eve. I can't remember. Tuxes and turntables.
Yes.
I think that's what it's called.
Tuxedos and turntables or something.
Yeah. Prince Ali hosts like the best events. And I was in the cypher, and I my ankle just like twisted or whatever. And so I was out for dancing for like maybe 4 weeks or something like that. And so I was forced to rest. Again, it's that force.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do something, I'm forced to do it. So I really had to learn how to rest, and it showed me a lot of like stuff that I didn't see before about myself, like my identity, like who I am if I'm not dancing, or who am I if I'm not taking yoga or out there going to the gym or doing anything physical. So I think during that time, I had to literally write down things that helped me relax, And I mean, everything is on there from like Netflix to putting on a face mask, which I don't do every day, but like things like that really help me do relax. But having that be a discipline, again, just like being self-aware of if I'm burning myself out. And if I am burning myself out, if I feel like I'm not enjoying my time doing whatever I'm doing, if I don't feel engaged in whatever I'm doing, that's how I know I'm burned out. And then I would give myself time to rest.
That's very cool. I think a lot of people are always thinking about hustle, 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 like sleep when you're dead. And essentially you're going to burn out, you're going to lose motivation. And resting actually, to me, feels... It allows me to reconsider certain things that I'm doing and kind of just reflect on, oh, how do I make this better? How do I keep myself from being too stressed out? And I feel like a lot of people don't even sleep a full 7 or 8 hours, if they need it. Some people can sleep, I don't know, 4 hours and they're fine. But for me, I need 8 hours. And there was a point when I guess I was in college until maybe 2 years after college, I would sleep 6 hours, 6.5 hours, and I would always be tired. And rest is like learning how to rest was really what helped me be more efficient, think clearly and all of that. So a lot of people just need to remember that resting is actually a good thing and it will make them do better.
Definitely, it will make them do better. In the beginning of the year, when I sprained my ankle, I was reading a book called Rest. I think the author's name is Alex Sutardji. I could be getting that wrong, but it's called Rest. It has a blue cover, and it talks about how rest can allow you to be creative. So like sometimes when we have those choreo blocks or the creativity blocks because we're trying to force something, that's usually a sign that we should step back and do something else. And in the book, he talks about when you do that, when you step away, whether that be taking a walk or doing something completely different to take your mind off of your project, you'll get those insights and inspiration like, oh, I could do that. And then, you will refuel your passion to do that project.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, in my last episode with a music producer and DJ, we talked about exactly that, where when we get that creative block, at least for me, I'm either driving or taking a shower. That will help me really clear my mind and get my juices flowing again. So that's very cool that you feel the same. Yeah. Doing something different, resting, and making sure that you're not basically overwhelmed or burnt out. That's cool. Maybe we'll do one more question. So from Raisu, which is my brother, Ryan, who also took yoga class from you. Yeah, at On One.
I'm piecing it together now.
Yeah. In yoga and dance, did you initially see that as an outlet for something else like relieving stress or anything? Or did you see it more of just like, this is your life? Or how did you see yoga and dance initially, and maybe now if they're different?
Yes. So yoga, dance, I'll start there. Initially, I saw dance as a way to express what I couldn't say out loud, right? All of like the stressors and what I wanted to tell people, or like all of like the deep emotions that I didn't have the words for. I felt like I could express through dance. And with yoga as well, like when I was in college and I first started taking my yoga class, I felt like it was like very therapeutic for me to be able to like breathe and take my mind off of things, but also create an intention that like this issue that I have will be resolved, and like go through a whole yoga practice meditation for that. So I would say definitely it was a place. Dance and yoga was initially something that I was using to express things that I couldn't get off my chest for whatever reason. And now I'm using it more as a dance and yoga as a way to discover the self, develop the self.
That's very cool. Cool. That's all the questions I had. So in terms of what's next for you, events or anything like that, what would you like to tell the audience?
There's so many events, but I would say that the development of archive is in its infantry stages, and there's visions that I have for where archive could go. But right now, archive has a bunch of performances lined up. Like, I'm not sure when you're going to release this video, but July 20th, this coming Saturday, we're performing at Undiscovered SF in the Soma, Pilipinas. And it's a really cool event with like different Filipino vendors and artists and stuff. So Archive's going to perform on the main stage for that event. And then we have Norcal Night Market. We're performing at the Norcal Night Market. And then Bliss Dance Festival on August 3rd. Yeah.
Do you know the times for Norcal Night Market and Bliss? Because I'm going to release this episode after Undiscovered.
Okay.
But do you know what the times are for the other two events?
Norcal Night Market is July 28th. We're performing Sunday, July 28th at 8 p.m., somewhere around 8 p.m.
Okay.
And for Bliss Dance Festival, that's going to be in San Leandro, and that's Saturday, August 3rd at like 8:45, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to be at Norcal Night Market, so I'll hopefully see you there. And I'm looking forward to what you have in store in the future.
Cool.
Where can people reach you or at least follow you on social media? Feel free to give them your handle or anything like that.
Yeah, so Instagram at Danielle Cruz Galvez, and Archive's Instagram as well at Archive Dance Co.
Cool. Thank you, Dani.
Yes, I'm glad I'm here as well.
All right, and that's it. Thank you.
Woohoo!